Hello friends, very interesting statements from Poland's political Olympus. When politicians start dividing the electorate along national lines, ordinary people on the streets are the first to suffer. Let's talk about how cheap chauvinism becomes a bargaining chip in the big Polish political game and why dirty tactics always end in everyday violence. We have some interesting analytical material. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Like to support aerodynamics to support the working class. Friends, huge thanks to everyone who doesn't mind. Simple actions take just 2 seconds. Well, let's get down to business. Once again, our topic is unpleasant, but we need to analyze it with a cool head and, if possible, with a warm heart. Let's do this without hysteria, but with a clear understanding of how the mechanisms of social persecution work. Let's look at the big picture because lately, if you haven't noticed, the information space in Poland and even the streets have been exploding with news that carries a very familiar, musty whiff of xenophobia. And no, my friends, these are not random coincidences, nor is it just a springtime flare-up among a few particularly eccentric citizens. What we have before us is a classic textbook three-level system. It starts in the high offices of parliament, trickles down to the hands of minor officials and law enforcement in caps, and ends with plain ugly beatings and insults. Here, right now in this video, we'll have 3 cases, 3 things to analyze. Well, okay, no, the material will be analytical, but there will be 3 cases. We'll break down how the chain works, who pulls the strings, and who earns political points from it. Look, the first level is the political Olympus and probably his gladiators. Let's start from the top, because as you know, the fish rots from the head. The vice president of the Polish Sejm, Vladimir Czarnecki, made an extremely harsh statement. He said directly, without any courtesies, that the hunt for Ukrainians continues. Well, before that, at least someone noticed that there is a real problem here. And he didn't just make a statement, he named those whose faces, in his opinion, embody this very hatred. The list included some very well-known figures. Braun, Nawrocki, Matecki, Czarnek, Berkowicz, Kowalski, Manzen, Bosak. The entire elite of the ultra-right confederation. And the right wing of the Law and Justice Party. You may wonder what they're saying since you're seeing me for the first time. Here's what they said. And the most ordinary things for populists who want to boost their ratings by appealing to the simplest human instincts. From their platforms you hear slogans like "not a single Ukrainian component in Polish schools," complete Polonization of children, and a demand for every ordinary Ukrainian to sign some kind of anti-Bandera loyalty pledge. I'll tell you honestly, Ukrainians in their conversations at home, in their kitchens, in public spaces, they don't talk about Bandera at all, unlike some people, right? You have to understand one simple thing. The modern political market is set up in such a way that real economic problems like inflation, some tariffs or rent is 1,500 zlotys plus utilities, the housing crisis. Damn, all of that is very hard to solve. It's much easier to find a scapegoat. And when the average person starts getting nervous like, damn, my wallet is empty, he is subtly presented with the image of an outsider, like they've gobbled everything up and taken it all. And this, my friends, is pure, unadulterated populism where hatred is sold as a patriotic product. It's the very essence of political marketing at its worst. So, yes, you can definitely write now. So, Dennis, aren't you ashamed to breathe Polish air? What are you saying? But I'll tell you, my friends. Maybe you don't understand this, but officials are salaried people who are paid with my taxes. And I mean it, you have the right to criticize them. Yes, you can Google it. Freedom of speech. And so moving on. And we have another interesting story that came straight from the airport. The little man in a cap syndrome. When there is tacit approval from above, the lower level workers instantly pick up on the signal. And they understand now it's allowed. And here we have a wild, in my opinion, unpleasant story, you could even say humiliating, that happened at Warsaw Chopin Airport during a routine passport control. A young woman, the daughter of Ukrainian artist Anastasia, sorry, I don't know who this artist is, Anastasia Snisarenko-Yashikowska, was forced to undress almost down to her underwear. They left her only in a bra and shorts. No, this didn't happen in a special inspection room, unless she was carrying a kilo of cocaine or something. At least there, the privacy rule is formally observed. This happened right in the main hall in front of a surprised crowd of other passengers. What is this, if not a public humiliation of human dignity? That's what the author of this Instagram post is asking. And he says that this is a classic example of the so-called petty bureaucrat syndrome, multiplied by the general xenophobic atmosphere in the country. A border guard or customs officer is someone given some level of state authority, however limited it may be. And when this person hears every day from TV screens, from respectable deputies, men in suits, that Ukrainians are somehow ungrateful, how the heck should you be thanked, dear Manson? Tell me, please. Ukrainians are watching here. Ukrainians are too brazen. Some people are tempted to demonstrate their power in a certain perverse way. Airport authorities and the border service aren't rushing to comment on the situation, and why would they? After all, it's much more convenient to blame everything on our standard security procedures. It's just the way things are supposed to be. But passengers in the comments confirm that the attitude toward Ukrainian citizens at the checkpoint is becoming increasingly biased and dismissive. Friends, if you've crossed the border with Ukrainian documents to or from Poland, please share your experience in the comments. Have you noticed any changes? Or let's say, is there any reason to think otherwise? Some people are already deliberately avoiding transit through Poland. They think, oh God, let's go through Slovakia or Hungary and choose other routes. Well, this is an image and financial loss for the country itself. But honestly, who even cares about that? So, friends, what else has happened? The third story is about these bus patriots from Bielsko-Biala, a wonderful city. You can write in the comments where you're watching from. Now we'll move on to the lowest and at the same time the most dangerous level, the everyday one. When poison pours from TV screens, border guards make it clear that the laws, well, yes, they work. But for Ukrainians, it's a bit different. The fringe types show up. Yes, we talked about it literally yesterday or the day before in Bielsko-Biala. There was an incident that caused a big stir. A man, 54 years old, and of course he was provoked by two 11-year-old girls. Can you imagine that mentality? Well, provoked, in quotes, of course. My God, I don't know how an 11-year-old child could provoke a grown man. Basically, he was yelling, swearing, and of course first demanded they get the hell back to Ukraine. And it's kind of unclear, because you can't see it on the video. Either he pushed or just touched. Yeah, something like that. There was contact. Basically, it's clear that he was provoked. Well, what else? How could it be otherwise, right? 11-year-old girls these days are like that. They just live for it. They see a big guy, and by the way, in the video, he looks like a real beast. And they say, damn, let's provoke him right now. So, as the footage from the surveillance camera showed, the kid was behaving more or less appropriately there, yeah. And they called her out for putting her feet up on that. Well, it doesn't specify whether she was wearing shoes or not. Anyway, they called her out, she put her feet down. The conflict seemed to be resolved. The guy thought for a while before deciding to let off steam. He mocked the kids for a few minutes until the driver, his colleague, kicked him off the bus. The most ironic thing is that the defender of pure Polish culture himself worked as a driver in this transport company, but he had been on sick leave for a long time, about half a year, I think. There are rumors, of course unconfirmed, that he bought that doctor's note, but apparently his health doesn't allow him to drive anymore. But to pick a fight with 11-year-old girls, well, he had enough strength for that. Good job, hero. According to rumors that have no official confirmation he was fired from his job. Well, maybe they'll think about it. How did this happen if cause and effect thinking works in the brain? The prosecutor's office has filed charges and he faces up to 3 years in prison. He even admitted his guilt during the interrogation, which is interesting. But the point is not about a particular loser who decided to assert himself at the expense of little kids. The point is that he felt he was right. He was sure that society would support him, probably. I don't know what's going on in people's heads for this to happen. By the way, I was in England, and I'll tell you, well, yes, I also made remarks to children there twice. Some were from Italy, and others were from the East, not from Ukraine, and everything was quite polite, that's all. Nothing terrible happened. I didn't bully anyone, and just silence, quiet. By the way, this was at Elmwick Castle. For those who know, that's where we filmed Harry Potter, the first and second parts, I think, well, partially, of course. Well, we're coming back from England. Let's talk about how this whole mechanism works. Let's connect these 3 points into one line because look, the first step, a politician with a nice haircut and an expensive suit comes up to the microphone and tells everyone we must protect our identity from Ukrainian influence. In translation, this means vote for me, the elections are coming soon. I found those responsible for your troubles. Step 2, a border officer thinks, oh damn, I see they're going after Ukrainians here. Yeah. These are considered second-class people, so you don't have to show them any respect and can publicly undress a girl in front of everyone. Step 3, A lowlife on a provincial bus, warmed up by beer and who knows what else, and the evening news decides that he is the hand of justice. Maybe he even signed up for some kind of civilian patrol. He sees little girls and starts insulting them because he feels some kind of silent support behind him. Yes, that's how it should be. How else? And this is exactly that chain of social degradation. As Vladimir Charasty rightly pointed out, first comes a bad word, then a beating, and then he says, a knife and death. I really hope so, but now beatings have become the norm. Something happens almost every day. I hope it won't come to knives and death. History has taught this hundreds of times. Any major pogrom always started with a small but very popular newspaper article or a speech at a rally. The politicians who are playing these games in Poland today think they are in control of the process. They hope to simply win the elections and calm the crowd. But history shows that the genie of xenophobia, once released from the bottle, never listens to its creators. It starts smashing everything in its path, destroying the very foundations of the social contract. I really hope that Polish society, which has a huge number of wonderful people, I hope that it will show incredible solidarity. And we remember, and we are grateful for the incredible solidarity and humanity. In the first months of the big war, they will prove to be wiser than their temporary political leaders, and that such heroes from the buses will not receive silent approval, but real prison sentences and public condemnation. Friends, my dear Poles, please protect your minds from cheap propaganda, analyze the facts and remain human. Try to do so in any situation. I really urge you, it's actually not that difficult, just use a bit of critical thinking. Watch fewer right-wing populists, although that's probably difficult, but at least use critical thinking, please. I'm asking you, drodzy Polacy bracia. Polacy przyjaciółmi. Yes, people will write things like that to me in the comments now. Well, that's just how tough this job is. Thank you for your attention. Please like, comment, and take care of yourselves and loved ones. See you next time.